This is a review of the Nitecore EF1 explosion-proof flashlight. This is a must-have flashlight if you work in explosive environments. What's that mean? If you work in the petroleum field, the chemical industry, or the petrochemical industry, you know what I'm talking about. Anything that can cause an explosion can blow up a plant and cost you your life. This flashlight is designed to be used in those environments safely. Inside of the box, you'll find a brief instruction manual, a belt holster, the flashlight itself, a 3,400 milliampere hour battery used to power the flashlight. This is a protected battery, and if you look down on the end here, you'll see the button, which is the top of the circuit board. You cannot use unprotected batteries in this flashlight because without this button they're too short and it doesn't make contact. So always use high quality protected batteries. In addition, you'll find a lanyard you can see over here, and over here you'll see 2 spare O-rings that you can replace if the old ones deteriorate. I spent decades working in the industry designing and teaching companies and customers how to use devices in dangerous environments and explosive environments. I've really taken a good look at this flashlight. It utilizes a combination of techniques and technologies to achieve its explosion-proof rating. What it means in simple language is that if certain highly explosive gases were present around the flashlight and they happened to make their way inside the flashlight and they were ignited because of a switch contact or the battery, then the flashlight is strong enough to contain the explosion. It also has an adequate number of threads on the tail cap to act as a cooling path to cool the explosive vapors and not allow the explosion to escape into the environment and blow up the environment around you. I know that was long, but it's very important to those people who work in the industries. Down in the flashlight, you'll see this blue piece of film here. I've peeled it off during my testing, but I want to show you that it is on there and you should remove it. This flashlight has a deep well mirror finish. It has a very bright LED, and it can broadcast the beam a long distance. That's very important. What you'll also see here is a special lens. This lens is a 10 millimeter epoxy resin explosion-proof suppression optical lens. What that means is when the explosion occurs in the flashlight, if it does, the lens is thick enough that it basically will suppress the explosion and hold it inside the flashlight. The flashlight itself is made of aircraft quality aluminum that's 3 millimeters thick. That's 120 thousandths of an inch. That's to also contain the explosion. That means the flashlight's pretty heavy. For its size, it weighs in at 10.55 ounces, and that includes with the battery inserted inside of it. One thing you'll notice when you take the tail cap off, it takes a lot of turns to get this off. Having been the chief engineer, I know that to have an explosion-proof cooling path, this has to be 6 1/2 threads, and I can tell you I counted them and they're there. So the design is adequate. What that's for is if explosive gases would come out during an explosion and go through these channels, by the time they get out here, it's cool enough it's not going to cause an explosion in the atmosphere. As you can see, all the surfaces that contact the battery and make electrical contact are gold-plated to minimize resistance. When I received the flashlight, the threads and O-ring were already greased with silicone grease, but I always have some on hand. Aluminum tends to gall, which means when you screw it together and 2 surfaces wipe, it's a form of cold welding. If aluminum galls enough, it's impossible to get apart. It might as well be welded. Putting silicone grease on there does 3 things. It protects the threads from galling. It protects the O-ring from rolling and being torn. It also improves the water resistance of the flashlight, so it's more protected against water. When you insert the battery, insert the positive in first, and then screw on the base. I do want to point out that the flashlight's designed to stand on its tail. That's called the candlestick mode. So if you're sitting at a table, you can stand it up and light up a room, for example. The flashlight, as you see here, has a switch to adjust the lighting modes. It has 3 modes. First of all, it can be off, and then when it's on number 3, which is the brightest level, it can output 830 lumens for 1 hour and 45 minutes. On the number 2 setting, 320 lumens for 3 hours, and when it's on the first setting, 4 lumens for 150 hours. The flashlight itself is temperature protected to prevent overheating and damage to the flashlight. This flashlight has excellent specifications for being used outdoors. It has a drop resistance of 1.5 meters or 4.92 feet. It's also waterproof and submersible to IPX7, which means a depth of 1 meter for 30 minutes. Just make sure that you always properly retighten the base cap and tighten it down. In addition, like I said, maintain the threads, and every 6 months clean them off with a rag and reapply some silicone grease to help keep it protected. It's important that you realize that this is a protected device. What's that mean to me? Don't service it yourself. If it breaks, send it in for service. It has a good warranty of 5 years. If you service it yourself, you may somehow damage the flashlight and it's no longer protected. In addition, never remove the tail cap when in the explosive environment. Don't even loosen it, and never change the batteries. If you're going to change the batteries, make sure that you're located in a safe area. In working in the industry, I was extremely familiar with Factory Mutual, UL, CSA, PTB, and the European Union approval agencies. This flashlight carries an approval from a Chinese agency called PCEC, which is a new one for me, but they work hand in hand with the PTB German agency and the Russian approval agencies. The code that it uses means that the flashlight is approved to be explosion protected for Type D or Class 1 Zone 1 approval, for Class 2C, which is a gas group acetylene. It has a T5 temperature rating of up to 100 degrees C, and it's good for equipment protection for gas atmospheres with a high level of protection. It is not for use in mines. It does come with 1 battery. As I mentioned, it's very powerful at 3,400 milliampere hours. It does not come with a charger, but they're readily available from multiple sources. Just remember, when you buy a battery, make sure you get one that's protected, which means it has the additional protection circuit board. And I also expect that you'll purchase 3,400 milliampere hour batteries, as they're very long lasting, and in case of emergencies you're going to need that capacity. Here you can see the very nice belt holster made of ballistic nylon with a Velcro closure. On the back side you have a belt loop that's also a Velcro closed, and a plastic loop here where you can hook it with a carabiner. Here I put the adjustable lanyard on it where you can slip it on your wrist and tighten the lanyard so you don't drop it. That's important when you're working on an ocean drilling rig, for example. You don't want to drop your flashlight in the ocean, so this helps protect your investment. Dark basement, and I've turned the flashlight on here at 4 lumens. That's a wall about 30 feet away. If I'm looking at something up close, you can see it's bright enough to see by, but it's certainly no major searchlight. If I flip it to the medium position, this is 320 lumens. That's quite a bright spot on the wall. The diameter of the beam is about 30 feet in diameter, and there's a small hot spot there. It looks much brighter in the camera than it does to the human eye. And here it's 830 lumen, so that's 30 feet away, and you can see it's quite bright. You can really look around, inspect some piping, for example, at a chemical plant or on an oil rig, and you can see that it's a very nice flashlight, very, very bright. This is an excellent product, and I rated it at 5 stars. It's ideal for people working in certain industries. I want you to know I was supplied a sample for test and evaluation. A review is not promised to the supplier in exchange for the sample, but I stated that if I provided a review, it would be fair and honest.